where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history, what body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psychology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
From WBRN Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network, Friday Jobber on the 18th of August 2017. Some interesting situations here with statutes. That's one of the things. There are these, excuse me, various assortment of statutes from the Confederate era that are coming down or being addressed. There's an article from the Washington Post we'll look at. Our good friends from the University of Virginia at Charlottesville, an update on the 2018 gubernatorial races. We'll go to that. Dr. Sabato and company, and of course our condolences to Professor Sabato, the University of Virginia at Charlottesville. A memorial was held on Wednesday for Herbert Harier, the woman that was killed by the white supremacists there on a Saturday. We'll have a special on that. We have the memorial in its entirety, and we'll do some enhancements to it, and that will come out this weekend on Spreaker and iHeart, that part of the, and various other parts of our channels as we work this situation out. And I'm not sure if we do it as a Sunday, then it would be on some others also. That's kind of a note there. Numbers Man is coming up. That is our macroeconomics program. It'll be coming up as usual on the weekend. And, of course, tomorrow, the week that was, our normal Saturday morning presentation. And on Monday, the Monday morning quarterback will be quarterbacking talk shows amongst other items as we roll along here with the various presentations. But firstly, to the Washington Post, and actually we'll go to Reuters. The business community is fleeing DJ Trump like a maiden from typhoid, literally. Investors are selling stocks at dollars, fearing on that the Trump agenda is itself a very weak agenda. And this is from Singapore. Asian stock investors joined a global retreat from risky assets on Friday, and a dollar wavers on rising doubts about the U.S. President DJ Trump's ability to deliver his economic agenda. It is in trouble because when a president's numbers fall, that is usually bad enough. But at this point in time, the president's ability to deliver anything is in trouble. The White House is in chaos. What more can we say? Period. There, and also on the van murders in Barcelona, Spain, as Cabarrus, a town south of Barcelona. There, index of Asian Pacific shares outside of Japan dropped 0.5% there, and the Nikkei slid 1.2% there. So you have all these events going on. Chinese blue chips 0.2%. Hang Seng in Hong Kong. It's almost like, sounds like numbers, man. 0.7%. And this is also around the chair of the White House, the director of the National Economics Council, Gary Cohen. Dr. Cohen used to be with Goldman Sachs. Rumors of his resignation because of positions taken by DJ Trump on the Charlottesville massacre there. And as Reuters puts it here, a statement from the White House that Cohen intends to remain in his position. That in itself is incredible, but nonetheless, diminishing West Wing support from both business and political allies will continue there to affect confidence in the overall economic program. The dollar also lost against the yen, falling 0.25 there. We won't go into the yen here, but Bitcoin, which hit its high of $4,480 in previous sessions before closing lower, inched up 0.2%. So now we even have Bitcoin, the euro inched up 0.1% to a dollar and we'll call it $1.17 there. So again, even Brent crude fell 1/10%. That's enough of that, but nonetheless, we are having all kinds of problems here. And in Maryland, crews began removing Taney's statue from the Maryland State House grounds. Taney was the Supreme Court Justice, Roger B. Taney. He wrote the Dred Scott decision, and the statue is 145 years old. The governor there, Hogan, Republican, said that his revulsion at what happened in Charlottesville and at a demonstration purportedly in defense of the statue of the Confederate General Robert E. Lee prompted him to change his mind about Taney's statue and push for its removal as a long sought by civil rights groups. The Maryland House Trust Board voted to remove the memorial to the former Chief Justice, who obviously defended the Dred Scott decision. That was in 1857. He said that African Americans, whether slave or not, could never be U.S. citizens. A different statue, along with 3 Confederate memorials, was taken down on the cover of darkness in Baltimore. DJ Trump again has fallen in the fray. Conflicting statements who to blame there. On Thursday, decried the removal of monuments, saying that history and culture of our great country was being ripped apart. Well, that explains it all. That removal of the statue that's in Indianapolis comes just hours after the Maryland Senate President Miller lashed out at Hogan for not holding a public hearing on the issue before the trust board. In a letter to the governor, Miller defended, Taney's legacy and long record of government service. That's exactly where he's going here with this, but that tells you the terrible condition politics in Maryland is in. As the governor is the chair of the trust. Spokesman said Miller is completely within his right to defend Roger Taney. I guess if he wants to do it. So basically, the Republicans got out in front of this. The Democrats there did not. The state placed the statue of Taney, on the ground in 1872. Since then, it's an added interpretive plaque explaining the controversy over the divisive Dred Scott decision and erected a statue of a Baltimore native named Thurgood Marshall. He was the first African American on the court. It also agreed last year to erect a statue in the State House. The abolitionist Harriet Tubman and, of course, Frederick Douglass lived in Baltimore also. So that is the Baltimore situation here. The Washington Post, a time for full and fair reckoning with Confederate statues. Editorial here from the editorial board: with astonishing rapidity, the violent events in Charlottesville have accelerated an already intense debate over what to do with hundreds of Confederate memorials and related statuary across the U.S. after officials removed 4 statues in Baltimore. Announced plans to remove a 5th in Indianapolis after demonstrations spontaneously destroyed one in Durham, North Carolina. We already talked about what he had to say. You can't change history, but you can learn from Robert Lee Stonewall Jackson, who is next. Jefferson. Who the hell wrote this? Oh, he wrote a series of. This is DJ Trump. So foolish. Also, the beauty is that is taking out of our cities, towns, parks, and greatly missed and never able to comparatively replace. Let's be clear, no one is talking about ripping the country apart unless it is the president himself. The tons of Confederate iconographic installed long ago were part of an ideological campaign whose goals was to glorify men and women who betrayed the U.S. in the cause of human slavery and to magnify descendants of to marginalize, descendants of the enslaved. This is a historical fact, and to hail the beauty of the statues is to ignore all that, possibly for short-term political advantage, which is what factional demagogues always seek, but not true national leaders. So now DJ Trump is a demagogue. Americans face a challenge that might be called mass curation of our public space in light of contemporary sensibilities, yes, but just as important in the service of what has always been the truth. There may be many ways for local communities to address the challenge, though removing offensive statues may be the most straightforward. In some cases, communities may prefer to add historical context and explain what is acceptable anymore is the status quo, not acceptable. Far from ripping the country apart, a full and fair reckoning with Confederate memorials could, if guided by thoughtful leaders, bring people together on the basis of more equitable and hence more sustainable consensus about the past. are George Washington and Jefferson next. The first and third president, many of the founding fathers and presidents held slaves, which may make their legacy a complex challenge for all thoughtful Americans. For purpose of public moralization, however, there's a distinction between people who partake of that era's moral flaws and those whose primary claim to fame is to have betrayed their country with the ultimate goal of making it impossible for the slavery to ever be abolished in roughly half of the U.S. In any case, the involvement of our historical forebears in slavery ought not to be shied away from, even as we study their achievements and appropriately honor them. Creators of the presidential houses at Monticello, that was Jefferson, and at Highland, that was James Monroe, both near Charlottesville, are getting better at doing so each year. You can't change history. You can learn from it. If Mr. Trump actually, who is attempting to do the former, having apparently failed to do the latter. Not good for DJ Trump. And on the economic scene of old DJ, this is at his resort there, Mar-a-Lago in Florida. 3 big fundraisers are being canceled. I hit no DJ in his wallet. Pulled events from the club there in Palm Beach, Florida. The American Cancer Society, high-dollar client at the club since 2009, cited its values and commitment to diversity in a statement on its decision to move an upcoming fundraising gala. Another long-time Mar-a-Lago customer, the Cleveland Clinic. I have a cousin who works at the Cleveland Clinic, a specialist there. Anyway, abruptly changed course in its winter event only days after saying it planned to continue doing business with Mar-a-Lago leading vineyard, for charitable events in the plush resort town. The Friends of David Ador, that which raises money for the Israeli equivalent of the Red Cross, also said it would not hold its 2018 gala at the club after considerable deliberation. The charity has one of Mar-a-Lago's biggest events last year. About 600 people attended it. The cancellations will undoubtedly squeeze revenue from the private club called the Winter White House. Don't worry, the governor will have to make it up because he'll be there. Where small events have all brought in fees of $100,000 to $275,000 each. But the club may face an even deeper crisis of confidence from local businesses. The head of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce, of which the club is a member, called the business morally reprehensible on Thursday, and she said expects more charities to defect. The glitter, the shine is gone from the club. The chamber executive director Laura Baker said, "I can't help but think that there will be more fallout from it. Rapid rejection of one of the president's signature businesses reveals a possible financial vulnerability for Trump for his neo-Nazi comments. At least several other groups that frequent the club, including the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in New York, and the Beacon Palmer Eye Institute in Miami, have announced in recent months they will choose other vineyards. So in other words, people are fleeing. The Cleveland Clinic, one of the nation's largest medical centers, abruptly canceled its event. From Elaine Shillett told the Post, "We're not elaborating," she added. Shortly thereafter, of course, the American Cancer Society, we went over that. Baker, who heads the Palm Beach Chamber, spoke vigorously against Mar-a-Lago on Thursday, saying that her directive to nearby charities was, if you're looking at your mission statement, you can honestly say an event at Mar-a-Lago having an event there, given all that has transpired, is in the best stewardship of your efforts. The club is a member of the chamber. That is right. She added the interview. The darkest place in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis, especially for nonprofits, especially for groups who help people who can't help themselves. That's what she said in her interview. The Cleveland Clinic, we won't go with that one. The Mar-a-Lago has faced scrutiny from supporters of a Buy America, Hire America program, the club which has sought dozens of H-2B, as in visas for foreign workers. So this is all there. The charities moves are welcome development. Other venues, the Palm Beach Resort and Spa. Somebody named Nick Gold said that increasing groups have come there. So in other words, groups are fleeing old DJ Trump's happy land there. What effect it will have on the Trump hotels, no doubt they'll be fleeing that also. The links golf courses that old DJ Trump has, they'll be fleeing that one. So some of the things happening here as we do the roundup here. Let me see. Senator Coker, he's from Tennessee, says Trump has demonstrated the stability or competence has not to lead the country effectively. Kevin Durant said he'll skip the White House visit, and Warriors teammates agree. He is a D.C. area native, recently won from Golden State. I think most of the players there decided they would just skip old DJ Trump. Been 40 years ago since the king, that's Elvis Presley of Memphis, Tennessee, died. I remember that night when he died. It was on the radio. And one of the things period. Just look at one other thing here. So it caught my eye. A Nazi statue, KKK hoods, and Trump magazine cover after Charlotte jarring. This is they have old DJ Trump in it. On their cover, that is, I suppose. There's DJ, so they got him. He got on something with various other things, the makeup of his cover. We can get it up here. I'm not certain that we can, but anyway, we'll probably have to. So DJ pointing at various covers here, I suppose, in whatever he's got going. Anyway, nonetheless, we'll go to the University of Virginia's Larry Sabato's shop at Charlottesville as we wind down our presentation. This is governors from 2017-2018. The Democrats' complicated path to big gains. This is by Kyle Klondike. He's a managing editor here. A couple of weeks ago, the Crystal Ball Senior, this is Alan Amowitz. We talked about him, I believe, last night. Unveiled a model for predicting party change in next year's gubernatorial elections. Results was rosy for Democrats. The model suggested Democrats should gain something between 6 to 9 governorships, depending on the Democratic lead in the House generic ballot. I think it's about 8. We'll get to that when we finish up here. The advantage is a large part simply because there are more Republican seats open. Republicans defending 26 of 36, so that means 10 they're not defending. The model does not take into account 2 other factors, both of which are also positive for Democrats. DJ Trump is unpopular, and many of the governors in governorships the Republicans are defending are open seats. Now, that does mean something. Out of 36 up next year, Republicans are defending 12 open seats, open governorships. Alabama, let's see. Alabama, Iowa, Kansas, South Carolina were successful incumbents who took over from departing or soon-to-be departing governors will be on the ballot. That's right, Brownback, very unpopular governor in Kansas. Some improvement there, yet at this early point, it may be that the Democrats will have a hard time realizing the potential of the Professor Amowitz's model illustrates. For one thing, the average presidential party gubernatorial seat net loss in post, and they keep going to post-war, is only about 6 seats. Well, possibly. We'll have to wait on that. It could be more. There are some logistical advantages for the Republicans. One is the financial might of the Republicans Gubernatorial Association, no doubt about that, coupled by the Koch brothers. They've raised $36 million to Democrats, $21 million. I wouldn't worry much about that. If you have good candidates, you perhaps don't need that. The National Redistricting Committee, a new group backed by former President Barack Obama and the former Attorney General Eric Holder, has raised about $11 million. In addition, in many states, Republicans may have more seasoned candidates. The Democratic bench of potential candidates was hollowed out in many states due to the party's poor performance in the down ballot in the Obama years. So looking at some of these out here, the toss-ups in Nevada, Colorado, Illinois. Well, Illinois should have, over the years, elected Democrats there. They've had some very bad candidates. Michigan, and Maryland, and even Florida. Well, in Florida, of course, they got Scott there, but they put that as toss-ups. In Arizona, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Georgia, likely Republicans are there in those states. And very few states, California, New York, solid Democrat, but you see that out there, likely Democrat in Oregon, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Yeah, the Virginia race is not going that much. And in the Commonwealth here, Charlie Baker leaned Republican to likely Republican, the old rating. And in Minnesota, the old rating was a toss-up. Now it leans Democrat. Part of that is shenanigans of DJ Trump, the main event in 2017. Two gubernatorial races in Virginia. You've got Charlottesville there. That has upset the whole apple cart in the state of Virginia. And as we move on down here, some potential GOP upset potential. In Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf will be seeking a second term after unseating an unpopular GOP Tom Colbert. And then there's Rhode Island. Out in Oregon, a long shot possibility of Republicans, but one that could be a dark horse race is in Oregon. Kate Brown will be seeking her first full term after winning the remaining term there. The Beaver State has not elected a Republican governor since 1982, but Republicans have come close at times. Brown only outpaced her challenger by 7 points. Well, I'm not sure about how that will go for Ms. Brown, but I think overall she's probably in pretty good shape in Oregon. Republicans don't have it well in New York, Hawaii, forget about that. They're not going to be doing anything there. Before we leave the Democrats, one of the races that doesn't fit into the category of independent, Bill Walker, he got a tax increase out in, is not a Democrat and once was a Republican. But he did defeat a Republican incumbent with the help of Democrats out there. His Lieutenant Governor, Brian Mallet, is a Democrat. Alaska dealing with budgetary problems largely due to the low prices for fossil fuels. In other words, that equates that to oil. Walker has indicated that he probably will run again, assuming he does not return to the GOP. The Republicans likely will go after his seat hard in Alaska. They tried to go after McCoskey, didn't work out for them. And then, of course, we have Republicans in Colorado, Connecticut, and Minnesota. There are possibilities, but at least they don't think so there. And then you have Asa Hutchinson in Arkansas, Pete Ricketts in Nebraska, and Wheelchair Abbott in Texas. There's not much to say about the following Republican incumbents winning comfortably in 2014. Doug Ducey, I guess, in Arizona, where Democrats seem to be more focused on challenging Flick, the senator there. In New England, this is old Charlie Baker here. There's no reason he should be in the governor's chair. Seems to have successfully deluded the state's most potential Democrats from running. The Newton mayor, Seth Warren seems like his likely challenge, but struggles to get traction. It's one of the problems in the Commonwealth, the base state, is finding a quality to run. Larry Hogan, we talked about him in the statutes, also has strong approval numbers and probably a better Democratic target. There are a number of qualified Democratic candidates there. Martin O'Malley being income, well, anyway, that's in Maryland. Our own Ben Jealous is running there. And Boss Walker in Wisconsin benefits from what is probably the strongest swing GOP operation in the country. And the problem they've had there is Dana watches. The Democrats finding a strong person to run there. And in Alabama, not confirmed, she's running the governor, Ivy, I suppose how you pronounce that, for a full term. That's an appointed there after the last governor-elect in corruption. There in Kansas, Lieutenant Governor Collier will take over from Sam Brownback. There, very unpopular governor there. Collier is to run for a full term. Oh, that's right. Brownback is an ambassador at large. Anyway, got out there as quick as he could. This Chris Kobach, the king of voter suppression, he's Secretary of State in Kansas, thinking of running for him. If the Democrats are really going to make any gains, they likely will have to flip several seats. One is in New Mexico. Michelle Grisham there, in there, and in Nebraska, in Maine. Florida is a toss-up, and there, Scott down there, the Agriculture Commissioner, Adam Pulliam, is a clear Republican state runner. Richard Cochran is one of them. On the Democratic side, Gwen Graham is probably a soft favorite there, in the Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum there, but I guess Scott must be term limited. In Michigan, Bill Schuette as a favorite in the primary there in the state of Michigan. And I don't see who the Democrat is there, but I guess we'll know more about that. It would not be surprising if he entered the race with an endorsement. Now, Corey, let's see, let's see, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Georgia. Democrats potentially intriguing candidates in all three, but single candidate is a clear road to victory. Former Attorney General Drew Edmondson in the Soonish State. Didn't know he was still around anymore. But in the Nashville mayor there, Carl Dean in Tennessee, and Stacey Abrams in the Peach State. I guess that's in Georgia. So the conclusion is Jim Justice jumped the ship. Surprising decision to switch. Republicans are at high water marks in they control 34 governorships. Democrats hold 15, and Democrats would have to work and potentially get a few breaks. They might come to get to six seats that Professor Amowitz is talking about. In Washington State, very quickly here, the current mayor there is no longer, well, anyway, he's on his way out. Ed Murray is talking about statues, the removal of some Confederate statue in Lakeview Cemetery, that is where Bruce Lee is buried, and the statue of Lenin in Fremont should be removed. Well, he's crazy, but anyway, we'll have more on that on the week that was. Tomorrow night we'll talk about the statues out in Seattle. V.I. Lenin's statue there is a very interesting statue indeed. The ball scores. Cleveland was in the Twin Cities, 9-3. It was a doubleheader there. 9-3, Cleveland over the Twins. The D-backs were in Houston and shut the Astros out. Very unusual for a zip. The Reds were in Wrigley Field. 13-3. The score: Reds over the Cubbies. Justin Grimm was the loser. Atlanta was in Denver. Atlanta 10-4 over the Rockies. The Rays were in Toronto. Toronto 5-3. The Cards were in Pittsburgh. 11-7 was the score there. The Yankees that crossed town with the Mets. They pulled this one out 7-5. In the second game, the Twins won that one 4-2 over Cleveland. The White Sox were in Texas, Rangers 9-8, close game there. The Nationals were in San Diego, Nationals 2-1. And finally, the Phillies out in San Francisco, Giants 5-4 in that contest. There was some NFL exhibition games, we used to call them preseason, what do you want to call it? We'll get to those tomorrow night. So this will do it for Friday Jobber on the 18th of August. We'll see you on the week that was. And Numbers Man and Open Source Report, we'll be talking about the various machinations on privacy and the First Amendment with the Googles, GoDaddies of the world, etc., the Electronic Frontier Organization, period, and what is defined as hate speech versus the First Amendment. Used to do a lot of work with ACLU. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.